All right, this is for the brain. So you've got the brain, you have 4 pins on this side and 4 pins on the opposite side. So exact same setup. And then you have 4 of these arms. You can lay them out just like this. And then you need 4 of these pieces. Again, lay them out like this. And we're just gonna snap these together. Put that one on. Okay, and then we're gonna take, on one side of the brain, we're gonna put 2 of the arms in the second hole on this. We're gonna put it in these right there. So go ahead. Yep. So those arms should flare out like that, and then you're gonna flip it over. Do the exact same thing on this side. So that's one team. One team is gonna make that right there. Okay, so I'm gonna have 4 videos. That's the first one. First team's video is gonna go and look like that. All right, second team is gonna be making these pieces. So here's what you need. You need 2 sets. So you've got a 2x4, one of these that has 5 holes and 2 pins. And then you need 4 triple pins. So it's got 1 on one side and 2 on the other. We call those triple pins. And then you've got a 12, so this is a 2x12. And then 2 of these, again, the color doesn't matter, but I think these are these 4s. What are these? Or 3s? Yeah, they look like this. They're like the 3rd smallest one. So you've got the 1s, the 2s, and I think these are 4s, is what we call them. So the number 4 standoff. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna put the 4 triple pins into this. So make sure you put it in the correct way. So you want it to end up looking like this when you're all said and done. So there it is, 1. Good. And then attach that to your 12. So you're going to attach that to there. Push it in. Okay. And then you're going to put those on the end. Those are actually going to go, yeah. Actually, I think they're going to go on the other side, yeah. So when this goes in, those are going to go to the inside. So they're going to go on the other side. So we'll show what that looks like here. There you go. So the pins, triple pins should be sticking out there, and then these should be going inward like that on both. So then we'll have a mirror image. I'm gonna push that into there. Okay, and there you go. And then these are gonna be used on the outside to cap that. There, and 1 there. So your second team, give them that video and they can make those 2 parts right there. Okay, this is going to be, there's going to be 2 videos here. This is all of your chassis pieces. We're going to build mirror images of each other. So you can have 2 teams work on this. One can build the first side and the other one can build the second side, and then you can just put them together. Or you could just have one team kind of do this and just split up the work. So the first thing is making 8 of these. So it's the same 5 by 2 kind of right angle piece. And then you're going to put 4 pins, 4 double pins in each one of them. So make sure that the pins are pointed the right direction. They should be pointing outward. into that empty space if you look at it like this. So you need 8 of those. You need 2 motors with, you can just kind of put a bunch of pins in them so they stay in. That's overkill, but it'll work. It'll give some kids some things to do. If you don't have Omni wheels, you can just take the regular wheel and take the rubber off of it, and they'll slide like Omni wheels. But if you have Omni wheels, you're gonna need a set of Omni wheels and one of these. These are 16s. So these are 2x16s. So if you count the holes on the outside, those are 16. So 2x16s, you need 6 of those. And then you need a couple standoffs that are this length. And they are basically, if you hold them up to there, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they're 5 long, which that makes them like a 4 standoff. So if you kind of look from here, from that point to that point, they're 4, the distance. Yeah, they have 8 little things in them, but that doesn't tell their length really. Their length is like a 4 length. Anyway, you need 2 of those, and I'll show you where they are. You can put these on at the end, so really if you don't know what size they need to be, that's fine. You need a bunch of shaft collars. The more the better. I'm gonna probably do the minimum that you need, and I'll show you where you can put more shaft collars in there. We're gonna build a little bit of this off camera, and then we'll come back and show you. Oh, you need 2 sets of axles. Again, so you have 2 small ones and 2 longer ones. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you need 2 6s, and I think these are 8s, and then 2 8s in terms of their length. Okay, so go grab your pieces, and then we're gonna start building. Okay, the first step is to put these on all 4 pieces. It doesn't matter what side you put them on, because you can just flip them over. But you're gonna have you've got 6 16s, or 2x16s, but you're gonna have 4 of them with the black pieces on each side. So they're gonna look like this. Attach them to the ends, just like that. And then now you're ready to make kind of like an H with this. So here's these, and then these are gonna go on the ends on these. Okay, so made a little bit of a mistake. The 2 outside black pieces need to have open holes on the end because they're not used in that, and that's how we attach the front pieces to them. So if you look on this outside rail, so if you look at our chassis here, these outside pins do not have, or outside holes don't have pins in them, and the same thing on this side. Those holes are pinless. And then when we put this on, we're essentially going to snap from left to right. We're just gonna put those 2 pins in. We're gonna snap these 2 in. And then we're gonna do the exact same down here. So we're gonna put 2 down here, and then right next to it, this. And this builds our chassis frame. So this is what our frame looks like. Again, you can see that there's open holes on both sides. That looks good. And now we're gonna add our motors. Okay, so the first thing is we wanna make sure that our axles, if you put your axles to the front, so if you do this, there's not enough room for the wheel to go in there. So the wheel is gonna rub against the front and you'll never get in there. So we need the wheel to be back a little bit. So to do that, we flip our motors so that the axle hole is toward the back of the chassis, and then we can also see the plug is right here. And then that's gonna put our wheel about in this position. Same thing with this motor, put the plug toward you, so the axle's on the back end of it, and then we're gonna put these in the second hole in. So when you look at the chassis, that rail, we're going second hole in, is where we're gonna line that up, and then go ahead and click that in. And we're gonna do the same thing with the other side. Lock that in, perfect. Okay, next step. We're gonna use our 2 smaller axles. And now we're just gonna kind of go through the theory of how this works. So we're gonna have this go through the hole and then into the motor. So you can actually feel it seat in the motor, and you should be able to turn it and hear the motor turning. So if you can't hear that, then it's not fully engaged in the motor. And that's where a lot of teams get in trouble, is these axles come out of the motors and they don't actually turn. So we're gonna put this wheel on this axle, but we don't want this wheel to move side to side, and then we don't want this axle to come out of this hole. So we're gonna use shaft collars to kind of keep everything in place. So we're gonna put a shaft collar on each side of the wheel to hold it in place. And then we're gonna put a shaft collar on the inside of this so it can't pull out. And then we're gonna put one on the outside just for good measure. So we're gonna have one on the inside, then one on the inside of this wheel, and then the wheel, and then one on the outside of the wheel, and then into there. So that's kind of how we're gonna put our shaft collars on. So we need to put 2 shaft collars on first. So put 2 shaft collars on first. No, other side. So 2 on the inside. And put a second one. Yeah, if you need to pick up the chassis to make it easier, pick it up. All right, then our wheel's gonna go on. Again, just rotate until you get the square hole, and then we're gonna put another shaft collar on the backside. So he's kind of pushing those shaft collars because they're not supposed to move, so they're really tough. They've got that rubber insert in there to kind of keep them from moving. Now he's gonna make sure it's inserted into the motor. And then now we need to move those shaft collars on the inside. We need to kind of drag them to the outside without moving the axle. So this is where we kind of wiggle. And we put one right on the inside of the rail. So you can see that one right there. We've got one on the inside of the wheel, then he's gonna push the wheel to that one. And then we're gonna push the other shaft collar here all the way up against this back side of the wheel. So slide this one all the way to the back side. This one right here, slide that to the back of the wheel. That way the wheel can't move in or out. We want it to kind of stay in the same position the whole time. Now, I would center the wheel a little bit more. So push your wheel back that way and then push the shaft collar in position. That looks good. And then see how this can wiggle? So we need to move that inner one. So see that? We don't want that to move. So we're gonna move this inner one out to so that way it holds it in place and it shouldn't spin. It should spin with the motor. Okay? So we're gonna do that same thing with the other side. All right, here's the second side. Flip that wheel around. There we go. It doesn't really matter, but so it looks consistent. Okay. One more shaft collar in there. Good. Now it's just about spacing. So it's engaged. And it's just going to drag those shaft collars out of there. Just kind of aligning those. And then pull that wheel toward the center. Just pulling the inner shaft collar there. Good. Last one. Perfect. Looks great. Okay. So this one can come out just a little bit because again, we don't want that to move out. That's the worst part. And then we can cap that on the outside. So again, we've got that both capped. You can see there's now our drive wheels. This looks good. Okay, so it should roll and you should be able to hear the motor, both motors turning as you kind of roll that. These should not move side to side and the axle should not pop out of that motor. Great, now we're gonna put the back wheels on. Okay, so theory on the back wheels, we're gonna use a longer axle this time. So it's gonna be like this. Now this shorter one, like a 6 will work here, but it's really close. So I like to have a little bit of extra on these. I'm gonna put a shaft collar on the outside of each of that axle. And then I need to hold this wheel from moving side to side. So I'm gonna put 2 in here as well. So I'm gonna put, so the axle is gonna go through the hole.
4 back or 3?
I'm not sure. I think,
It's 4.
yeah, I think you're right. That's fine, right there. So 4 holes on the center hole. So if we're looking here, we're counting, this is the first one right here. So 1, 2, 3, and it's in the 4th hole in the center on this one. We're gonna put a shaft collar first, and then we're gonna put the Omni wheel. And then we're gonna put another shaft collar. That's good. Okay, now put a shaft collar there. And then, nope, push all the way through. And you're just gonna cap these on the outside. Okay, and then you can move that, and then adjust that one in there. Good. Again, that's gonna keep that wheel from moving side to side. So now the whole axle moves side to side, so show them that. So now we wanna put a cap on each side. So if we put a cap on the outside here and a cap on the outside here, it will prevent that from sliding side to side. And again, you want more of the axle to hang out on the inside here than on the outside, because you do have a width limit. Now you can look, this doesn't slide side to side. This is locked in place Omni wheel wise. Now, again, if you don't have Omni wheels, I'm not sure if they come in your kit or not, just use a regular wheel without the rubber on it, without the tire. And that will allow you to slide on the surface and roll. So this is a good alternative to this, because this is just a drag wheel. It's just gonna drag behind you and rotate as you turn. You're gonna do the exact same thing on this side, just a mirror image of this. So go for it. All right, so here's the other one on there. My son suggested that instead of using the little wheel, I think you might have a set of bigger wheels in your kit, so you can use the bigger ones so they more closely match the diameter of the front ones. So instead of the little smaller inner wheel, I don't know what comes in the kit for the standard kit. We bought a lot of extra parts for our team. The last thing we want to do, so you've got your chassis now. These pieces kind of squeeze together here. So to prevent that, this is where we're going to use these standoffs. So this standoff should fit perfectly in that space. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put one of those standoffs kind of right in the middle holes of there. It's not imperative like that it's exactly in the middle, or just get it somewhere close where it's not rubbing against the wheels. So we're just going to put it in like this hole here in the back one. So just going to clip that in, going to spread it out a little bit, and then lock that in. Now it prevents that from being able to be squeezed, and it just kind of makes everything a lot more rigid on that. So it's going to do the same thing on the other side. And then we're about ready for final assembly. Great. All right, so now we're ready for final assembly. You've got your two like claw pieces or your pusher arms. You've got your interface, you got your brain with the little legs on it, and then you've got your chassis. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to add our pusher arms. So there's a couple things that we need to add to this chassis first. So on the front of the chassis, we're gonna add two double pins into the second holes there, yep. So just a simple double pin. And then we're gonna add this arm to this. So the black is gonna connect into there, and then this is gonna connect into the double pin that's gonna lock it. Now you might have to pop that piece off, put this on first. So we found in competition, this will break off. So like if you hit the wall hard enough, this would break off, but if you do this and you put an extra little plate on the outside. That shouldn't go anywhere. So you should be able to lock that in right there. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now we're all set. We've got the chassis ready to go. Got the arms on. Now we're ready to mount the brain. So typically when we mount the brain on this, we're gonna put the ports, we're gonna put it like this, and then so ports 1 to 6 are on the back side, and then these front feet are gonna go into the holes right after the motor. So you've got a motor here that takes up these 2 holes. The next set of holes that we can put it in is right here. So this is gonna lock in to those 2 holes, and then we're gonna bring the back feet to where they line up, and they line up in these last 2 holes on this side. We're gonna lock those in. So the son's doing the other side, and we lock those into those holes. He's gonna get these. And there it is. So now, that's a nice and sturdy chassis. It's not going anywhere. The battery now is really easy to put in and take out. It just slides in right there onto that wheel, or on top of the wheel. You can turn it on. Make sure you put your battery in the correct way. Don't try to force it the other direction, and you can hold it down. Last thing we need to do is connect our wires. So we just need 2 short wires. So these are, what are these?
They have like 1 bend in the middle.
Yeah, so these are really short. So almost the shortest ones you can get. I don't know if they have a number. Does yours have a number on it?
200 millimeters.
Okay, 200 millimeter wires, so 2 of them. So usually when I feed wire, I want to lift up and feed the wire from the bottom and kind of bring it up and around. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna go ahead and plug one in. You can do your right motor if you want, or left motor, okay? That's gonna go into port 6. So he's gonna feed that up and under. And go into 6, and he's gonna put the other one for the right motor. So plug that in, and I'm gonna take it up. And now it's gonna go into port 1. And we're officially done. If you don't know how to pair your joystick, you're gonna need your blue cable, and that's gonna then plug into the side of your brain. And then you're gonna plug that into your joystick. And then you're gonna turn on your brain, and that will pair the joystick. So that's all it takes. You're looking for a connection between those 2. And I guess that's what it's showing. It's showing it's paired right there. So then you should be able to unplug them, and now you should see a radio right there. So that's the indicator that there's a radio connection between the 2. And next step is program. Okay, so you should have Vex IQ installed on your computer. I'm gonna double click to open that up. It's gonna open your code. First thing you wanna do is rename your program. So we just called this PusherBot. So you can click on this up here and change the name. And then we're going to add devices. So make sure you're using the correct generation of robot brain. We have a 1st generation brain here. All right, so add a device, 2-motor drivetrain. Our left motor we plugged into port 6. Our right motor we plugged into port 1, and we have no gyro. And then these values don't really matter unless you're doing autonomous stuff. With a gyro, they don't really matter, but without a gyro, if you don't have a gyroscope, you're gonna need them, but you're gonna have to measure the distances between basically the center of the front wheel to front wheel, and then you have to know the distance between this axle here and the back axle here for those 2 things. So when it wants track width, if you click on the question mark, that's side to side, and then your wheelbase is front to back on that. and you can put in the values there. But again, if you're using a gyro, you don't need those because it actually knows what heading you're turning to. If you're doing autonomous in a competition, I would definitely use a gyro. They should come in your kit, and just add a gyro to there, and you can click on it and then say what port the gyro is on that you're using. But for our simple program, we're not going to even do that. The next thing we want to add is a controller. So we're going to add a controller, and then the easiest driving method is called split arcade. So this joystick right here will make you go forward and backward, and this joystick, if you push side to side, will make you turn. So especially on this competition where you're going in a straight line for a long period of time with a pusher bot, this is really nice to just go straight forward, and then you can make little adjustments with this side to side if you need to. You need to practice driving. That's kind of the biggest thing with this, is you need to put in a little bit of time to do that. But once you have this is all your program takes to get this robot to run. So at this point, we're ready to download our program. So we're gonna grab our USB cable. I bought these at Dollar Tree. They are a dated USB cable for like Android devices. The ones that we got from Vex, they had a bad batch. So I was like, forget it, I'm not waiting on those. These are $1 at Dollar Tree. So if they mess up, we just go buy a new one. That's a little pro tip. When this comes up, it should go green. If it doesn't, it says it needs updated, then you have to download some other software for that. I'm not gonna go into that in this video, but it should go green. And then this allows you to pick different slots. There's up to, 6 or 8 slots? Or 4 slots on this one. The new generations have 8 slots, I think, on it, but the Gen 1s have 4, so you can put it in slot 1. You can have multiple kids programming it, and then they can put their programs in different slots, so they can test out different things if they want. And then they're gonna hit the download button. So up in the corner there, click on download. It should say it's downloading. And then your program should be on your robot. It should be in slot 1. Just push your bot right there. And at this point, we can disconnect. And then you've got the controller paired. And you can actually run the program, I believe, from the controller. Can you hit, you just click on the check mark. And now, also, don't let your students drive the robot when it's on a table, because they are inevitably going to drive it off the table, and then all your hard work is done. So put it on the floor, and now drive and check and make sure it does what you want it to do. And there is your simple little pusher bot. Good luck. Okay. That's good, you just cleared the corral. Perfect.